Your greatest asset, overextended, will become your deficit in life. I want to talk to you about decisions, the decision-making process of a great leader. Everybody in this room makes decisions every single day. And the reality is that those decisions not only affect you, they affect every other person in this room. I have come to believe that great leadership hinges on how you make your decisions. Period. It's how fast, it's how accurate, it's how demonstrative those decisions are. The thing that I've done in my life, sometimes I've made bad decisions, but I don't make slow decisions. I make slower decisions when it comes to people and relationships. And I don't say faults, my greatest asset in life, my personal greatest asset in life. And if you don't know what your greatest asset is, you sign up for Life Leaders Coaching and I'll help you walk through that process. But my greatest asset in life as a person is my loyalty. And your greatest asset, write this down if you got a pen. Your greatest asset, overextended, will be your greatest difficulty. It will be your deficit. Your greatest asset, overextended, will become your deficit in life. My greatest asset has always been my loyalty. I love fast and I love furiously. It's always been that way with me. Nobody's ever going to say Darrin was excuse my language, he was half-assing anything. That's just not who I am as a person. That's not me. I don't love halfway. I love very fast. John will tell you that. I love very fast. When I find somebody that there's a match in our souls, male or female, I love people really quick and I love deeply. My biggest problem is that I tend to extend my loyalty too far. And so your greatest asset will become your greatest weakness if not put in check. So the question then becomes, how do I make a decision about my asset? Is it in a good place or a bad place? Does that make sense what I just said? So great leaders make decisions fast and accurately. And here's three things. You can write this down. I think it's in your notes somewhere, but I'm going to go off script. I'll talk about this in a little bit, but you got notes there. There's three things that I think about in making decisions. I think about the outcome I'm trying to get, the values that I live by, and then the fulfillment of the client on the back side. Now, I want you to process this accurately, okay? Everything, this is what I want to call vision, what I want to see happen, right? What I want to see accomplished. This is the first thing I look at. What are we trying to get done, right? We make a decision on what are we trying to get accomplished here? What is the role? What is the opportunity that we're trying to capture? And so this is my first position. Now watch me, y'all. This is not 1, 2, 3. Let me write it like this so it's better on camera. This is first, second, and third. Now, in life, you can have a 2 without a 1. You can have a 2, you can have a number 2 without a 1, but you can't have a second without a first. Do y'all understand what I said or not? I can write any amount of numbers I want, 2, 12, 77, 99, right? I can write that out, but I cannot have chronologically a second without the first being there, right? So you can jump to chapter 2, right? Doesn't mean you have to read chapter 1. But if you have a priority of outcomes, first is always before second. So you can't have a second without a first. Mary Kay Ash, y'all ever heard of Mary Kay? Mary Kay Ash said, let me get this off the screen. I don't like it being there. Mary Kay Ash, which when she died, she was worth $350 million. Single mom, built Mary Kay Cosmetics. If you've never heard of that, you probably need to look that up. She said every day of her life, she would start her day with 5 priorities. The 5 things I need to get done today. And she would never go to second one until she finished the first one. So you can't have a second without a first because you can have a 2 without a 1, but you can't have a second without a first. So it has to be first, second, third. Does that make sense what I said? So there's a reason that I wrote them like this, because when I'm processing a decision in life, especially in business, but anywhere in life, I have a first things first. The first thing I consider is outcome. What are we trying to get done? What do we want to see at the end of this? Does that make sense? All right. So what is the outcome? So when I look at outcomes, I'm trying not to direct this. I got 50 million things running through my head, but when we look at outcomes, let's just, all right, look, okay, when you're in business, this, it should be at the top of your list. I didn't say it was first, but I said it should be at the top of your list. How do we, right, make capital? Okay, that's what business is for, true or false? All right, business is for making money. If you want to be if you don't want to be a capitalist and you just want to give stuff away, move into the nonprofit organization somewhere, because business is about the outcome, and the outcome has to be tied to this. When I think about making a decision, the first thing I'm processing is, what are we trying to get accomplished here? What are we really trying to get accomplished here? That's the first thing. All right. And it's not always tied to money. Sometimes it's tied to timelines. Sometimes when I talk to April about vacant units, the first thing on my mind is a vacant unit produces absolutely $0, right? $0. So which one is more important, right? Let me just go here, right? So then which outcome would be more important? The maintenance call or the call of opportunity, right? And when I'm processing the decision, because listen, you don't even know, you're processing 50 million decisions every day. But when I get two calls, like I'm just using April as an example, when I get two different calls here, I got two people that are calling at the same time, I have to process in a minuscule minute, right? Which one's more important to me? So if John calls me about, hey man, I think my toilet is leaking, I can't see the water. Okay, all right. And then Rocio calls me about, I want to rent something today. How fast can I make that decision? I say, John, hold. I said, John, I need to put you on hold real quick. Now, here, this is important. I need everybody to understand, because at the end of this, the outcome that I'm first prioritizing is, where's the money coming from? Now, watch. If this is an emergency maintenance call and this guy calls, how do I process it? So then but the reason I'm giving you this today is because one of the things about me as a leader is how I think, right? It's how I think. Connie has been with me 10 years. She was 40 when she came, but anyway, that's neither here. There are 90 things that she doesn't have to ask me about, because she just knows how I think. Ricardo's been with me 5, 6, 7, 27 years. I don't know what it is, but there's 99% of rehab stuff that he doesn't call me about. He doesn't need to call me about that stuff, because he knows this is the product we produce. And this product produces what? So the outcome is here. Now watch, the importance for me as a leader to you is, I want you to think the way I think, so that you don't need me to answer your questions. Say, Darrin, that makes sense, right? I want you to think the way I think, so that you can learn how to prioritize properly. Everything has to be prioritized. You cannot go through life without priority. Now, is this the only thing that I think about when I'm determining an outcome? No, it's just one of my first outcomes that I think about, right? So when I'm talking to April about these two things, the most important thing to me is the opportunity on the line. Now, if this is an emergency call, then in the moment, I've got to balance it. I've got to think properly. Why? Why, John? Because if this is an emergency, most are not, but if this isn't an emergency, what does an emergency cost? It costs money. So if they go, man, the water pipe in the ceiling just busted and it's leaking everywhere. If I drop this call to go to this call, this is going to cost me more than this would gain. You understand what I just did? This is going to cost me more than the gain of this. That's part of being a good investor. You got to be able to think through it, and you got to be able to think through it like that. You know what that's called? Default. Default. I want your default to process in a minute, in just 5 seconds. Boom. I know what to do, right? But in everyday things, I want you thinking about, this maintenance call is not as important as this opportunity call. So if you're going to be Mary Kay Ash, you're going to go, I got 5 things on my list that I have to get done today, but 2 never supersedes 1. It never supersedes the first. She would never go to the second until the first was actually accomplished. So it just blows you out of the water when you say, I'm multitasking. You say to me, I'm multitasking, I'm calling BS on you, ASAP. That's a lie. You ain't multitasking. You just scatterbrained. If you want to be a great leader, you can't be scatterbrained. You got to be focused and accurate. You got to be focused and accurate. And that's why I don't go to my second thing until my first thing is accomplished. And so when I'm processing decisions, I look at what we're trying to get accomplished. Now, is money the first objective of every decision? No. There are some things where speed is more important than money to me. You understand what I said? There are some things where speed is more important than the money that we make on the back. And then there are certain things where the value, and this is core values, this is not any other thing than that. So the first thing I do when I think about making a decision, the first thing I want you to do is, what are we trying to get accomplished? You understand? So I'm going to go back to April, right? So if the guy calls, if John is on the phone and he's got a new property that he says, I think I want you to manage, and James calls on the other line and he says, I need to rent something today, who's more important? That's right. Because I still got to sell John. So the outcome I'm trying to get is, how fast can we get unoccupied units occupied? So then you start processing it that way. Does that make sense what I said? Right. All right, cool. So outcomes, right? So when I make a decision in construction, like we just had one, and Courtney and I ran through it yesterday, and we were talking about this thing with the plumber and I don't even know what happened, but anyway, tearing out bathtubs to put in the stuff that was supposed to be there. And then I want to know, how are you processing the decisions of today? That's really what I want to get into your head now. How do you process those decisions? So let me everybody that don't know, I'll just tell you. So the plumber put in the wrong tubs and we had to snatch them, because if not, the sheetrock man was going to overlap and then we had more problems, right? So she made the decision, boom, boom, snatch them and run, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think that was the right decision. But what I want you to do is I want you to be able to tell me how you processed the decision. Do y'all understand what I said? If you're going to be a leader, you should be able to sit down with this board and go, well, hey, D, this is what I thought about. This is how I processed it. Okay? That's just real. This is how I went through it. This was my mind. We had 45 seconds to get it done, and I made a decision. This is it. Second thing of that, if you make the wrong decision, be okay when I say that was bull honky. You shouldn't have done it this way. You should have done this way. You understand what I said? So when me and Courtney ran through this yesterday, I said, here's the problem I have. Right? I had a couple of problems, but I'm an electrician by trade. Y'all know that, right? I used to be an electrician, still am, but I still do it. I'm still good at it, but neither here nor there. So I said, Troy, if I'm on site and you call me on a Friday afternoon and say, hey, D, I need you to come rewire this switch because the sheetrock man's coming, I'm going to say, I can't come today. So then if you go, I got to get somebody to do this today, and you call Eliezer to come get it done, and he gets it done, and then you back charge me for that, I'm going to call BS on you. Because you can't call me on a Friday afternoon as the vendor electrician. There's no way I can get there that fast. So your lack of supervision doesn't make my electrical emergency. You understand what I just said? Now you can back charge him, like we went through all that yesterday. You can back charge him. But then there's a whole process, again, that we talked about yesterday. There's a whole process of understanding the back charge. And if you want to lose this person, you understand what I'm saying? If you want to lose this person. So the only thing I care about today is not the particulars of the decisions that we make during the day. It's how you come to the decision. And that's what's important to me, because I want everybody in the room to go, here's what Darrin would do. I don't need that dude. Gone. Because the more adequate decisions you make without passing the buck to circumstances, without passing the buck to, I don't know, what? I don't know. Emergencies. I don't know what it would be. I don't know. The more adequate decisions. Here's one thing about me that I do, and Claudia can probably attest to it. When somebody doesn't make a decision, I go, this is the way we're going to go. Period. This is it right here. Don't care. Don't like it. When I'm raising teenage girls, I go, I don't care if you like me. I want you to love me when you're 40. and you're successful. Right now, I don't give a rat's behind if you like me or not. And if you bring something to me, most of the time I'm going to go, I don't care how you feel about it. Right? Because if you're going to be a leader in our organization in any form or fashion, you better take your emotions and leave them in the vehicle when you come in the door. Period. Because Ricardo will tell you that there are moments where we come in and it's nobody but him and we cut loose and we scream and cuss, F you, I'll slap you in the mouth. No, I'll slap you in the mouth. But we're done. We go, okay, what are we going to eat? Let's get something done. You understand? So you got to take your little baby emotions and put them in the car if you want to be a leader. And you got to be able to take correction. Somebody say correction. Yeah, you got to be able to take correction at every level. At every level. Like nobody, if I make a bad decision, I'm going to go, sorry about that. My bad. And that's on me. That's on me. And I make a lot of bad decisions. But you got to be okay whether you make a good one or a bad one when the consequences of that come downstream. It's the only way to learn. It's not the only way to learn. It is a good way to learn, right? You could just go, hey, tell me how you process this right here, right? And get to the outcome. This is what I want. If you bring a vacant decision to me, any kind of decision that's not been made, and you bring it to me, I'm going to say, what are we trying to get accomplished? And does this match our core values? And then tell me about the client on the end, how they're going to respond to that. You understand what I said? So we talk about the tub, right? Who's the client on the tub situation? Who's the client on the end of the vacancy versus the maintenance? Who's the client on the end of the deal, right? So April's client, the prop manager's client, their client is the owner of the property. So then you go to construction, you go, who's your client? So how did you process the outcome that we're trying to get accomplished? So this is the vision. This is the vision. Speed and accuracy, right? Speed and accuracy, right? And then, okay, does it violate our core values? And they are 5 or 6. Huh? 5 core values. Does it violate or is it in standard with the values that we say this is what we hold dear to our lives? You understand what I said? As a Crest Fund family. Everybody say that makes sense. All right. My first thing is vision and outcome. What are we trying to get accomplished? Second thing is this okay? Is this okay? Ricardo will tell you this, man. We've been through stuff in the past where it was easy to let something slide. They didn't charge us for this. How do you want to handle it? Real. Like we've picked up stuff. Let's just say we bought 2 generators. They charge us for 1 generator. Takes us 2 days. Takes me and Ricardo 2 days to figure that out because that's how we are. But Rocio comes back and says, and this is just, I just made this up. So Rocio comes back and says, look, you got 2 generators. They only charge you for 1. Ricardo goes, what are we doing? What are we going to do with the generators? So then the question, how do we process? What is the vision? And then I just immediately move to my core value. Well, one of my core values is integrity. Take the goddamn generator back. Either way, take it back or pay for it. Doesn't matter to me. Hey, man, this guy's got $25 million cash money, and he wants to invest it in Crest Fund. Tell me about the dude. Where'd he get the money from? Because if he's a drug dealer, I want you to keep your money. If he's making money on selling cocaine, I don't want that money. You understand? Because that violates my values. And then I don't want ugly around me. Ugly, internal, not external. I don't want internal ugly around me, right? So I don't care if you got $25 billion, if it's drug money or if it's prostitute money or whatever it is, you keep that on your side of the fence. I don't want no part of that, right? So my first thing is outcome. You go, hey, Darrin, we're trying to raise $35 million this year. This guy's got $25 million. So when I think about outcome, everything is met. That's a checkbox. Boom. Perfect. And then I go immediately after outcome, I go to my values, my core values. Does this meet our core values? Does this match us? And if it doesn't match us, I do done. Love you though. High five. Tell me how I can help you. I'm not connecting my wagon to you. You understand what I said with that? Because when you connect your wagon to somebody, the ugly on them gets on you. 100%. Yeah, it's 100% anchor into ugly. Into internal ugly, right? When I think about value, and we had this conversation, we've had this conversation about it. We go, I don't know where the money came from. And then we just go, nah, you stay on that side. I love you though, bro. I'm here to help you. And if you later can come prove me, no, this is where this money came from. This is how I got it. Then we'll have another conversation about it. But if so anyway, I'll leave that right there. I'll just leave that right there because we're on video. But the second way I process is by our values, our core value, what I hold dear to my soul, what I hold dear to my soul and dear to our organization. And then I think about the fulfillment of the client. First, second, and third, I think about the fulfillment of the client. Who am I responsible to? Okay, who am I responsible to on the backside? Who is the client? And how am I meeting their needs? These are just the default mechanisms for Darrin's processing, right? How am I meeting their needs? Everybody in this room is a client to me. And my job as a leader is to help you get better. That's my job. So when I process you as a person on our staff, I process these three things. Can I help Courtney? And what's the outcome I'm trying to get accomplished? Is it going to meet our core values or is it going to go against my core values? And then what is the client fulfillment? In other words, I have clients that we are responsible to, both the people that buy our houses and the people that invest money with us. I have clients. So if I bring Courtney into our organization, is the outcome going to be there? Is the core value going to be there? And then are we going to meet client fulfillment? You understand? And every business on the planet is made to register client fulfillment. That's what we're here to do. I have extended personal values and they go deep. I will not allow a decision to, okay, here's one. Katia is like a daughter to us, right? She's been with me 10 years. Me and Katia are not getting in the car together to go to lunch. Katia and I are not going to the job site in the same car together. It ain't gonna happen. Not because my wife doesn't trust Katia or me. It's because I learned growing up in ministry that I don't do one-on-ones with females. I don't care who the female is. Rosie's a sister to me. We're not going to dinner together. It ain't happening. It ain't happening. And I would die for Ricardo. That's my brother. I'd die for these, but it just ain't happening because that's the value that I hold in my life. And I learned that through my father in ministry. My dad was a walk away, run, Forrest, run. That's what we do. So my value, these are like the Crest Fund values are core values at a high level, but I do have personal values that go deeper than that for me. There are things that I will not cross the line on. And some people think they're weird things, right? John asked me the other day, it's not been the other day, everything's the other day to me, but it's been when Courtney first got here. He said, me and Courtney are going to Maps. Can we ride in the car together? And I said, hell no. It ain't happening. You can walk over there, but you can't get in the car together. Because it doesn't matter, right? Matter of fact, James had a client in his office 2-3 months ago, and it was a female client, and the door was closed. And when he got done, I brought him in and said, don't ever do that again. It doesn't matter. Now, I don't distrust James or her, but if she drops one thing and says, he touched me, or he said something to me, then we got a problem that we have to answer, and I'd rather avoid. You understand what I said? So I have deep values on a lot of things like that I've learned over 52 years of living that I just go, that ain't happening for me. That ain't happening for me. I don't do lunch. As much as I love Katia and as much as she's a child to me and a kid to us, we're not going to lunch together. It ain't happening. It ain't happening unless Lindsay's in the room. It just ain't happening. And there's nothing there. But it just ain't happening because I'm guarding my own soul. And so I have deep-seated stuff. When it comes to things like that, I got deep. I won't counsel a female solo, door closed. And we got glass rooms right here. But I'm not going to counsel a female with the door closed and it's just me and her. That's just out of bounds, right? I fired a girl one time. I don't know who it was. And I always, before John was here, I said, Katia, just come sit with me. Because I go, oh, this person could say anything about me. So I need somebody in the room to be a buffer for that. Does that make sense what I said? So I've got 10,000 of those over my life, man. There's just things that I will not do. And not just male and female things. There are things in business and life that I won't do. Everybody has values, whether they believe it. I think everybody If you're going to be a great leader, if you're going to be doing anything significant in life, you have to know who you are. And you guys can write this down. This is a really good thing. I'm glad you brought this up. This is what I live by. No one can know himself by himself. So this is a product of my life. Nobody knows who you are all alone. When God framed Adam, he looked at him and brought all these. He said, man, I'm going to create somebody to help you be a hangout with you and help you become what you're supposed to be. And he brings all these animals by, and he said, none of that worked. So I'm going to bring him a helpmate out of his own self that he brought Eve. Because here's what the Bible says. It's not good that man should be alone. And so through that, there's a principle intertwined in that nobody can know themselves by themselves. And no, we live by this. We don't know if you have honor until you have an opportunity to be dishonorable. Does that make sense what I said? Until you have the opportunity to steal $1 million, we don't know if you would steal $1 million. That's why giving is important where you are, that you start with the dollar you have in your pocket, being the giver. So nobody can know themselves by themselves. Everybody needs an outside hand. Everybody needs an outside hand. So it's not good that you sit down by yourself and go, here's my values in my life. Everybody needs a coach. Everybody needs an outside hand. This is a core value to me. Everybody needs, my life has been radically changed because of outside influence and outside hands. Right? And everybody needs one. So nobody can know themselves by themselves. So if you're going to say, I'm going to script out my core values of my life and my living, you got to have help. You got to have help. And you got to have someone that can go, you're lying, James. Yep. Because it's really easy for me to look in the mirror and go, man, you met all the criterias this week, D. It's easy, right? That's easy. But when Lindsay comes in the room, and we look in the mirror together, and I go, I met all the criterias. Right? It is what it is. But nobody can know themselves by themselves. You got to have some help, man. Because some of us, watch this now, some of us have bad visions of who we are as a person. So we see it in this deep darkness. And then some of us have these skewed values of who we are and what we are. And so we see it in this magnificent light, right? Not anybody in this room, I believe, but most of us tend to look down on ourselves. And I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. And I think values are unfolding, both personally and corporately. I think they emerge and unfold. That's my thought on that. I think they grow. And I think the values that you set in your own life will actually grow as you get better. The values that you hold dear will get better. Does that make sense what I said? Like, I don't hold the same values I did at 20. Religiously, spiritually, soulishly, physically. Like, my workouts are not the same as they were at 25. It's not as valuable. You understand? It's still valuable to me, but it's not the same as it was then. So things emerge, right? And then you have these kids and they get on your nerves and all this stuff, right? And they just beat you down, fun suckers and life suckers, but neither here nor there, and then you have to change, right? The age of Ricardo Rosillo's children and Claudia's children, not the same as mine. Like mine, I'm ready to go. You need me to help you get you a place? Like, I'm ready. I love you the same, but so it's the same. Like, I love working out the same, but the value of that changes and everything has to emerge. And you got to have outside help. You got to have somebody to go, Troy, man, that decision wasn't a good decision. And they go, tell me why. Here's why. Boom, boom. So that you can adjust. Greatness has to be adaptable. You got to be able to adapt. And nobody can do that by themselves. You sit on an island, you're the greatest on the island. But excellence, if you go back and listen to our core value I did on excellence, excellence has to be compared. You can't say excellent. I'm excellent. We excellent. If you go out to our, man, we excellent. So somebody comes in the other day and says, man, I saw the stuff y'all built out there. Man, that's the best in the city. It's obvious you hadn't seen everybody's stuff, right? And your viewpoint, your vantage point is skewed. You understand? But it's easy for us, when we talk about value, I'm getting off subject. It's easier for me to go, let me compare myself to the people I know. There's a scripture that Paul wrote. John can probably tell you where it's at. I think it's in Corinthians. It said, woe to the, don't be a fool. Don't be like the fools and compare yourself by yourself. Now, that's going to make you unwise. The King James says it's going to make you unwise, but the Greek says that makes you a fool. Like, you stupid is, stupid does. But yeah, you understand what I mean? So I think it's an unfolding, it's a growing thing. Man, the stuff we are today, we were not 10 years ago. Like my leadership today, the stuff I'm giving you now is not the stuff I would have given you 5, 6 years ago. It's totally different now. I'm elevating as a person. So then my values, as I value what I'm giving you as a leader, different than what I did before. You understand? When we were in the big building and I was teaching sales training, everything is different now. You understand? And if you don't grow into your next and you keep comparing what you've always done and where you've always been and say, I'm good, I'm really good, I'm really good, compared to what? You understand what I'm saying? Compared to Shaw Road or compared to Orange County in LA? Which one are you comparing to? You understand what I mean by that? So for me, I call it going pro. I got that from Coach Burt. I call it going pro. So if you're going to be a professional and you're going to go pro, then you got to compare with the big dogs. You understand what I said? You got to compare with the big boys. And you go, I don't want to compare with them right now because, no, dude. No, I do this teaching. I'm way off, John, but okay. I do this teaching. If somebody laughs at my drawings, I will fire you. I promise to God I will. I do this teaching. Let's just say tomorrow. Okay. This is the gap, right? I do this teaching. This is you now, James. There's James and this James. He shouldn't ask the question. Now he's going to be the guinea pig, right? I do this whole teaching on how do I bridge the gap between who I am now and who I want to become. So this is becoming, and this is being. This is who I be, right? Okay. So then how do I bridge the gap? How do I bridge the gap between here and there, right? And then where does James tomorrow live? And we're talking about excellence, right? So I'm doing this value thing right here. So I'm going to tie this together. There it is. That's what's up. That's what I want to see. So how does James get from here to here? So let's call this 5 years. I'm not going to tell y'all how old James is. You wouldn't believe me anyway. Today is 2025, and this is 2030, okay? And in this side, James is, he is, but we won't tell anybody about that. But in this side, James is a millionaire, okay? On this side, James a millionaire, right? So how does James get from here to here? What's the difference? Because the difference, y'all should write this down. This is something I say almost every week of my life. The difference is the distance. Is there a distance between 2025 and 2030? Everybody say, yes, there's a difference. Is there distance between where James is right now and James becoming a millionaire? Everybody say, yeah, there's distance. So the distance is the difference. And what is the difference? The difference is this person and what he will become. Now, how do you bridge the gap of difference? You bridge the gap of difference by, in your imagination, going to this new person and figuring out all the things about him. What he does, what he eats, how he lives, where he lives, how he dresses, how he smells, how he thinks, how he processes, etc., etc., etc. And this, now, I'm being spiritually spooky right now, but I promise you this works. I promise you, I've lived it. I know what I'm talking about. When I'm doing coaching, and if you want to pay me $25,000, I'll do this for you. I do the magic pen. Anybody got a pen? No? All right, so this is a magic pen. And I go, James, whatever you write with this pen comes true. Part of our problem in America and culture is that we're scared to say what we actually want. It's part of our biggest problem, especially in Christian America. We're scared to say what we want. So I go, Courtney, this is a magic pen. Whatever you write with this pen is going to come true. And the first 5 minutes, Courtney struggles writing this down. James struggles to write anything down. And then he goes, what am I supposed to write? Tell me about the car you're going to drive. Tell me about the house you're going to live in. Tell me about your beach house. Tell me about your clothes that you wear. Where do you buy your clothes? Tell me about the restaurants you eat at. Tell me about how much money you make. Tell me about who cuts your hair. Tell me about where you buy your shoes. Tell me about the socks that you wear. Tell me about your drawers that you wear. It's etc. And as much as you write with this pen, in 5 years, James, it's going to come to pass. And that's the gap. So the gap is James is here. And what happens is, this is funny, guys, because what's going to happen to you, it happened to me. When I started doing this with my magic pen, I got this from Mike Murdoch, John, just so you know. When I started writing with my magic pen, it took me a little bit, Troy, to figure out it's okay to want what you want, right? And just let it be what it's going to be. And then when I actually started being okay with letting it be what it's going to be, like if Ricardo, I don't know what Ricardo would write. His pen would wear out before he finished writing. Ricardo would just keep writing. It'd be dry. He's got another pen. That's Ricardo. He got all kinds of stuff. But the gap is between me today and this guy. And you know what the gap is between $100,000 and $1 million? You know what the gap is? No? What's $900,000? No, I'm just kidding. The gap is that's the only gap. That's the only gap. So what causes you to think and how to think? Does anybody know what causes you to think? It is what Ricardo just said. It's a mindset. It's the setting of your soul. We way off now, John. It's the setting of your soul. It's the paradigms that you already believe that causes you to think the way you think today. So if I want to bridge the gap, what do I got to do, Kev? I got to change your thinking, but I got to become first before I change it. What do I have to become? Write this down. This is a great word, y'all. I got to become aware. How do I become aware? Outside hand. No man can know himself by themselves. You get it? Everybody say, I got that part. The difference between James today and the millionaire James is one thing, how he thinks. And as a man thinketh, so he is. Period. Period. So all I got to do, Darrin, is sit down and think. That's not what I said. I said your thinking will determine how you act. It will determine how you be. So all I've done, James, is I've used my magic pen to say these are the things I want. And they changed after I've started growing because I don't want Bentleys and Rolls Royces. I couldn't care less about that stuff now. Don't really like them now. I like the Rover. But all I did was write it out so that I could go, okay, that's what I want. And when you say, okay, that's what I want, the universe goes, you sure? And when you stand sure because of contradiction, because in this gap right here, everybody, I'm way off, John, sorry. Is that? No, it's A right there, isn't it? Yeah, contradiction. Contradiction always come in the gap. From what you are now to what you say you want to become, you will have contradiction. Did we have a contradiction on the job site last week with the plumber? Yes or no? That's called a contradiction. It's called a contradiction. When I sit down and say, April, I can't do vacant units. I don't care what you got to do to get them closed. Get the goddamn things closed. It's a contradiction. So what you don't want to do in the contradiction, what you do not want to do in the contradiction, oh, Lord, you don't want to excuse yourself. When the outside hand comes and says, James, you talking about a $20 thing is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And if you make excuses for the contradiction when it comes, guess where you're going? You going here? Nope, you're going back to where you were. Because your default takes you to what? The original setting. I'm sorry I got so deep, but I did this weekend and it was really good. All right. So it's the original set. What I believed that got me to the James that I am today. It becomes the original set. When you excuse the what does the contradiction come to do? What does the contradiction come to do? It comes to challenge you. That's exactly right. Come on, get off the screen. The contradiction comes to make a decision. Exact same thing we've been talking about. The contradiction comes to say, how will you decide? Man, that's good. I should take up an offering right now. The contradiction comes to your life to go, hey, April, how will you decide how you handle this contradiction? That's what it comes to do. And how you decide to handle that contradiction decides if you go back to your default or you move to the new person. Period. Where's money come from? Anybody know where money comes from? I just taught that this weekend. I'm excited. Now y'all got me excited. I'm going to take them an offering. I hope you got your checkbook. Well, where does money come from? Anybody know? Nobody knows where money comes from. Carter, you've been with me 10 years. You don't know where money comes from. You fired. Get your stuff. Get out of here. Money comes from the inside out. Does money come from what you do? I said, does money come from what you do? Yes or no? No, money comes from who you be. Oh, sorry about that. Money comes from who you be. You want to make more money? What do you need to do? I just showed it to you. You want to be a millionaire? Do you need Darrin's help to be a millionaire? You need somebody's help. You just need to become the guy or the gal. So it's just so funny, right? American society is built on what? Anybody know what America was built on? America, our whole culture was built on business, the trade. That's what America was built on. Y'all know the second thing it was built on? Nobody knows this. No, it was built on celebrityism. We make a celebrity out of everybody. So here's what most people do. Most people look at Darrin and go, Darrin has a special gift from God. You know what that does for you when you do that? Takes all the responsibility of your success out of your belly. And it goes, well, if God, he was just born, Tiger Woods was just born with a gift of golf. And the stats, the scientific, James and I had a thing years ago that he brought in from Forbes magazine about talent, the lie of talent. And the stats scientifically show that Tiger Woods was just average until he hit about 10 or 11 years in the game. Warren Buffett was an average investor until 10,000 hours. So but it's easier to go, I don't think it comes from the inside of me. I think it comes from the outside. Have y'all seen me draw the wagon wheel? You don't like that, right? Okay. Outside or inside out, right? Who, and this is a what, right? And when you make the decision, when you come to the understanding that money comes from the inside to the outside, and it doesn't come from the outside back into the inside, then you take away this talent thing. Because if you look at me and say, Darrin's a millionaire because of God's talent that God gave him. And if you tell me that, if you're a dude, you might get throat punched. Because I have worked my off to get where I'm at. Nobody goes as hard as me. 4 o'clock till midnight. I was grinding for the first 2 years of my house flipping business. You know how many deals I've done for the first 2 years? 2 years, you know how many deals I did? 0. How many hours I was working? 15 to 18 every freaking day of my life. And I was moonlighting doing electrical work. I say moonlighting. I was doing electrical work to pay bills. And then as soon as I was done, I started the real estate grind again. 2 years, not $1. You know what changed that? You should know what changed that. Anybody know what changed that for me? Nope. Anybody else? Nope. Anybody else? You better know what changed this. You want to change this? An outside hand. I went 2 years and did absolutely no money. I met one person. And in 6 months, I made almost $100,000. Now, this has been a long time ago. It was 20 plus years ago. So 100 grand was balling. It was balling back then, right? One person. And you know what he said to me? You're thinking the wrong way. This is easier than what you thought about. Do it this way right here. Click. So money is always about a who and not a what. Okay? And you'll become rich I promise you'll become rich. It has no hinge on anybody else. It only has to be hinged on you. When this guy or gal in your future becomes the person that you are. Does that make sense what I said? Yes or no? How do I get there, Darrin? You got to learn how to make decisions properly. Does anybody in this room know how much I've paid for coaching in the last 25 years of my life? Because somebody asked me this weekend and I was contemplating it, right? Oh God, how much money have I spent in coaching? Not quite. I've probably spent about 700 grand, 7 to 8 in my life on coaching and getting better. That's not including Bible school and just the books that I buy all day, every day, because I buy tons and tons of books. I think I have about 2,000 books in my hands, either Kindle or hard copy. That's not including any of that, right? I've spent about 700, let's call it 750 because it's a good number in my life, just outside hands where I go, I'll pay you to come coach me. Does anybody in this room know that Coach Bird is coming, my personal coach? Y'all know he's coming in June? How much that cost us, Katia? $25,000 plus the flights, plus the hotel, plus the food. You know why I did that? You hear my stomach getting hungry now. It's about time to break. Y'all know why I did that? Y'all know why I paid him $25,000? I already paid him $25,000 to coach me, but I'm bringing him to this room. No, I'm bringing him to this room for you. I'm paying for that. I'm paying for that. I'm charging $500 for the seats, not for y'all, but we're posting it. But I pay 20 because I know when you get around the people of an outside hand, your life is going to get better. So I'm okay paying $25,000 for you guys to get better. And if you don't get better, I'm going to beat you afterwards. But that's neither here nor there. No, I'm just kidding. Does that make sense? Everything I said makes sense? And it all hinges back. Greatness always hinges back on how you make these decisions. Say, Darrin, if I had money, I could pay that for coaching as well. That's poppycock. I started paying for coaching when I didn't have any money. As a matter of fact, when y'all know my story, right? John will send it to you. Yeah, he'll send it to you. Y'all know how I started this gig? So when I started this business, I was an electrician. Lindsay's working at Suncom. And is my stuff all right, John? She was working at Suncom. And together we were making 80, 90 grand, right? And I decided I needed to do something better, bigger, whatever. And we had, let's call it $5,000 to make it even. We had $5,000 in the bank in our savings account. Now, when I married her, I had $10,000, but I'm not going to tell y'all that because it's on tape. She might see it, but neither here nor there. So anyway, we had about $5,000 and I found an infomercial, Robert Allen, and I paid $3 grand to go do a weekend with these guys on how to buy real estate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So now we got $2,000 and then there was tons of stuff you had to do. So anyway, long story made short, I didn't make any money for 2 years. And then I met Chris and Chris said, this is what you need to do. So Chris was my first mentor, my first outside hand in the business. And then we started making money, the whole deal. And then what happens? Anybody want to know what happened? Does anybody know what that happened? So in 2008, we lost everything we had. Plus, when I moved back, I was about $350,000 still in judgments and credit card debt, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this was 2000. It was the end of 9, and we started back in 2010. And James, we had in the bank, and this time we had about, let's just call it $3 grand. I don't think it was quite that much total. I had no income, no job, and they were foreclosing on the house in Charlotte that we lived in, so we had to leave. So I had nowhere to live. I took out of that, it was less than that, but I took $1,000, and James was riding with me then. I took $1,000, and we went out. I bought signs that say, "We buy houses," with $1,000. And I had creditors calling me every day. We owed credit card debt of about 350 grand. because I had to live off credit cards to keep us afloat. And we moved back in 2010 and started over with this dollar right here. And it was about, so let's call it 45 days. We had about 10 houses under contract. Yeah, we went out and posted. Me and James would go out. I drove down from Charlotte and stayed in the camper. I stayed in a camper that my in-laws owned. I lived in the camper, came down, and me and James would go out on Friday nights after everything got dark, and we stayed out till 3 o'clock in the morning putting signs up, banging them on poles, putting them on stakes, putting them on trees. We were all down in Anderson Creek. We went everywhere, right? And in about 45 days, we had 10 houses under contract, and I moved in one of those houses. They were all sub-2 houses. We didn't have a choice back then. I didn't have no money to buy it. It was either we take over your payments or we don't get it done. We took over payments. We moved in this house. And the other houses, we were doing rent to own. Me and James perfected the R2O model. We did rent to own on these houses, on 9 of these houses, and we made money on those. And that's how we started back. And we had enough money for me and Lindsay to move into one of these houses and start over. Now, when I say all this, not to say that I'm cool or whatever, I say all this because it's about these decisions that you make in life and how you make those decisions that will determine your future. It has nothing to do really with Crest Fund. It has nothing to do with Darrin. It has nothing to do with your staff here. It has nothing to do with any of that. It has to do with how you make your decisions and what you decide is valuable to you. That's all it is. Okay? Because money comes from the inside out. It comes from you. It doesn't come from me. Okay? Does that make sense what I said? Yes or no? All right, it's 11 o'clock. I'm going to wrap it, John. Anybody got any questions? Y'all heard my stomach growling, so I'm pretty hungry. Questions, comments, anything else? Thank you, April. Anything else? Yes? No? Are y'all going to go make this work or no? March 29th. Is everybody registered for 29th of March in here? Everybody in here is, Simone? I don't know, Claudia's lazy self ain't. She's going to make kind of excuses. Who else is not registered? Your children. Now she's going to blame the children. See about excuses, right? Look, excuses. Right there it is, excuses. See? Contradiction comes, and then we make an excuse for the contradiction. You are. That's real. They just don't pay much. That's the only problem. Anybody got any comments, anything else? Yep. You know what? Look at me, guys. I'm still recording or no? You are still recording. One of the things, one of me and Ricardo's biggest contradictions is the chasing of money. So many really great ideas. But my deal was always to pull him back. Rein it in, Bronco. Just pull. It was like riding a bull. Right when Ricardo's riding a bull. Just bucking Broncos all the time. It was a rein it in, because most of us in life chase after the outside thing. If I do that, then I'll make money. If I do that, I'll make money. If I do that, I'll make money. No, it's the becoming. If you become it, the money will run after you and not the other way around. If you become the person, the money will run after you. It will run after you. And you go, no, I don't have a big enough vehicle, right? The vehicle is what you do in life. I don't have a big enough vehicle. That's not true. You have to become the person. And when you become the person, I told Claudia, we were talking one day about money. And I said, Claudia, you know what Warren Buffett's, he called her secretary because they started in the 60s. You know what his secretary is worth? Anybody know what Warren Buffett's right-hand girl is worth right now? She's older now, but does anybody know what she's worth? She's been with him for 52 years or something. She's worth like $300 million because she rode with Warren Buffett. Of course, he's worth 50 billion or something like that, but she's worth $300 million. It's not what you do, it's who you are. You understand what I just said? And so you can't go outside of yourself chasing money. You need to go inside yourself chasing who you are. Because if you let me help you dial that down, and you become the baddest mofo on the planet at being you, nobody can stop you. Period. Nobody can stop you. Nobody will stop you, right? That's all I've done. When I let go of comparison, then I became Darrin. No, you do what you want to do. Ralph, y'all do what you want to do, whatever. This is my space right now. And I trusted God to unfold the next. I trusted him to unfold the next. And then God goes, okay, when you become something bigger, then bigger will show up. Now listen to me, guys. I promise you with everything I love, I did not draw this out on my life. I didn't draw out I'll be traveling and speaking, and I didn't draw that up. God did that. All I did was get better. I'm not saying I'm great at standing up here speaking. All I'm saying to you is I got better. I got better. And today, this morning before I came here, I got better. And tomorrow when I get up, I'm going to get better again. And when contradiction comes to me, you know what I do? Contradiction comes, I don't make an excuse. I go, yes, sir, thank you. May I have another? Tell me how I can be better, whether I like it or whether I don't. And contradiction will always come to anyone on the journey that I want to be something. I want to be somebody. It's coming. The winds of contradiction are coming. They're going to hit you right square in your mouth. Okay? They're coming for you. How you handle the decisions in those contradictions will determine what and who you become tomorrow. Destiny and purpose is pretty simple, guys. I can solve it for you. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know what life is for me. I can solve all that for you real quick. Y'all ready? Whatever you have in front of you to do it to your best ability, and the rest will unfold. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. Stop looking for the rainbow, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. The pot of gold is inside your belly. All you got to do is learn how to squeeze that bad boy out. How do you do that? Somebody tell me how you squeeze out the gold inside? An outside hand. No one can know themselves by themselves. You need some help. You need some help. That's why I'm doing this right here on Tuesdays for you and for Simone, whoever she's got online. I'm charging them when they come, but y'all get it for free, right? And I'm giving, listen to me, I'm giving you 35 years of life. And James will tell you, this is who I am. Like I go after growth like nobody. I'll pay whatever it costs me to be better. Period. Period. Okay. And I'm just giving it back to you the way I have it. I'm just giving it back to you.